$100 cash game. There are, in fact, already over $2.5 million in play as some of the highest rollers in poker pit their wits against each other in order to try and make as much profit as possible to grab that much-coveted Season 3 trophy. At the moment, it is David Benyamine, the man to catch, so we'll hand you over to your commentators, Gary Jones and David Tuckman.
Unbelievable poker we're seeing here at the FullTiltPoker.net $1 million cash game. Button is in front of one young Mr. Tom Dwan.
Pass.
Action around to the rock, and he's got the ducks.
2,000.
He makes it 2,000 to play. That's 3.5 times the big blind. Give or take a bit of loose change.
Play your hand, Mike.
Who
He
cares?
just wanted to keep the pot small because he doesn't want to take home my money.
I get bluffed.
On an ace.
I get
ace
bluffed.
three.
I get bluffed. What do you
Ace
do?
three
You
queen.
made 2,000.
So I have treats.
It's not like I haven't been bluffed before.
10,000 total.
Well, there's a re-race from Phil Hellmuth with the deuce 3. He's trying to get in on the bluffing act. That gets rid of Vandy Block.
10 total.
I think he thinks that Mike's weak with just the flat call. All he really felt like he had to get through was Andy Block. He's got through him.
Well, it's the classic squeeze play, isn't it?
Exactly, but Mike might be steaming, and that's exactly what he is doing. He's called a bet. Wow, if Phil wins this one and blasts Mike out of the pot,
3, Jack, 10.
well, he's going to find it a little bit harder now.
Yeah, Matusow with top pair.
How much you have left, Mike?
Of course, Hellmuth with a piece, but it's going to be difficult for him to improve, of course. We know that 2 deuces are already dead.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that, of course.
And he's a 4-to-1 dog.
57 more.
Matusow, of course, with top pair and a queen kicker. Pot is $23,000.
Check.
And of all the players to bluff, do you really want to bluff somebody that may be steaming?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
$25,000.
Matusow puts in a little bit of an overbet there, $25,000.
I think he's trying to show that he's pot committed.
Well, I think he certainly is. He started this pot with $66,000, and he's put about half his money in the pot already.
The question is Phil going to spot that? I think he was probably hoping for a bet of
Oh,
15,000.
man.
Then he can put the
You're
pressure
liable
on
to
with the
have
re-raise.
Ace-9 here or some crazy thing. I think you're just a little tilty after the last hand.
Well, I'm definitely a little tilty after that last time.
Yeah, I know.
That's a for sure fact.
Pot is $48,000.
But I for sure
$25,000
probably
to
have
call.
you beat this thing.
For sure, probably. I can beat Ace-8.
So can I. I could beat ace-8 too.
I could beat ace-8 and I don't even have cards.
Me too.
I could have the queen-9 of spades too. Or the king-queen. Or 2 deuces. Or ace-deuce of spade.
You might have deuces. Okay.
Pass.
And Phil lets it go.
Force?
Rams.
Come on, show him, Mike.
Rams.
I want to see just how. I want to see what you called 8 more with.
Well, you didn't show him what you made it 8 more
Doesn't
with.
matter what I had.
Pass. Pass.
Once again, over $2.6 million at the table. Only $79,000 of which is in this man's hand.
I have to take the medication soon. I know. I got to see that. It's on your money.
Action over to the mouth.
Pass.
Tilted in. I tilted in.
2,000.
Up to 2,000 from Tom Dwan. Well, he's just re-raised with deuce 3. This time he picks up the aces. And it might look a bit like a squeeze play against Tom Dwan. Thinking he's trying to steal in the cutoff position.
Well, Dwan's got a real hand, but we both know that
So
Dwan could have
Phil.
any two cards.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone at that table knows that he could. Bet and a raise, and Chris sitting there with ace-10.
Well, I think this is why Chris Ferguson is thinking about this. He knows that Dwan doesn't need a hand to play this. He also knows that Phil doesn't need a hand to re-raise. Ace-10 could be the best hand here, which is why he calls.
I still find it strange, Chris calling this. It's not really how he's made his money in this game. He's usually been fairly certain he's got the best hand when he's put his money in the middle. We've seen Tom play some hands really fast, but he's going to see a flop with the eights. If he can catch one, he could get an awful lot of money off Phil.
Jack 2, 6.
Well, it's a pretty safe flop for Mr. Hellmuth.
Check.
I have to agree with you, though. I would imagine Chris Ferguson, I would have expected a re-raise or a fold if he thought he was good. Ace-10 offsuit, definitely a tough hand to play out of position.
Check.
And how does Phil play this hand? Phil Hellmuth.
Probably a 13,000 bet, something like that.
Two spades out there. You'd never give the free card, would you?
Well, he could do, but it's a very dangerous play. That's what he decided to do.
A little bit of a trap here, huh?
He's probably going to get a bet off Tom Dwan on the turn. I think Chris is going to just keep checking.
Check.
Well, Phil is trying to play the kid. I mean, you'd almost expect to see either pocket jacks in Phil's hand or nothing at all, maybe ace-king. You wouldn't expect aces in this case.
No, definitely not.
Tom Dwan taking the bait, and you can't blame him.
No,
I think most players
he
would
probably feels
think,
like he's protecting his eights right now.
13,200.
The big question is, how does Phil play this? Does he leave the kid up front?
It's a strange line that Phil Hellmuth has taken.
Call.
And how difficult is it to play Phil Hellmuth?
Well, I've only played him in a couple of tournaments myself. He's a very, very tricky player. He's usually at his most dangerous when he's not talking, and that's what he's doing right now.
Well, the 5 of diamonds changes nothing. I mean, there's no reason to think Tom Dwan... does he think maybe he's up against 9s or 10s?
Yeah, there's a good chance he thinks that he might be losing.
Check.
The underpairs have probably hit. There's only really 7s, 4s and 3s. Hard to make a value bet here, but he might do it almost as a stop bet. Does he think he's going to get a call from ace-king?
Well, the action is over to Hellmuth. And he
Hellmuth
bets
50,000 into this pot. He's trying to make it look like a bluff with an oversized bet and a good lay down there from Tom. Trying to be tricky, Phil.
Well, I think Phil maximized the value in this hand. I really do. I mean, I think he got that bet from Dwan on the turn. But Dwan is too good of a player to pay him off. Phil Hellmuth's still down $18,000. But of course, that tricky play, one of the reasons why he has 11 World Series bracelets.
Welcome back to the no-limit high-stakes action that is the Full Tilt Poker.net $1 Million cash game from right here in the heart of London. Let's go straight back to your commentators, Gary Jones and David Tuckman.
Mike, what is your Steam in 8 more thousand?
Action on Matusow.
I don't want to start playing at ring because then the grinders can be
Jack
too
Queen
knitted.
suited.
But I did steam in with it.
I know.
Pass.
Because I was mad at myself because
I know.
I had the best hand and I folded.
Back to Tom Dwan.
You might have had 2 aces with the ace of clubs.
Pass.
Why wouldn't you re-raise it again?
Well, let me draw for my 3 for free.
I call someone was playing it.
Well, Phil looks like he's playing fast and loose, but he's picked up aces followed by kings. He's just flat calling with them this time. I think he feels like playing tricky's the way forward for him. Phil's flat called on the button. I can't imagine. Well, he's making up the 300, Chris, even with the 7 deuce. I never thought I'd see the day when Chris Ferguson was playing 7 deuce when he didn't absolutely have to.
Well, he's flopping open-ended straight draw here.
Check.
And with the 7, it's actually the better side of it as well.
Exactly.
2,500.
Bet from Phil. 2,500 into slightly over 3,000.
Ivey in there with Jack 4 offsuit, obviously not playing the cards, playing his position. He has the button.
And we've almost forgot that Phil Hellmuth is sitting there with kings.
Well, I think that's exactly what Phil wants us to do, and he wants everybody at the table to do as well.
Problem with Phil is he's got no idea where he is in this pot right now.
Ace.
Well, he's behind now, if there was any indication there.
Chris catching us straight, see how he plays this.
Check.
How typical. You got the kings and you decide to bet it as soon as the ace comes down.
Well, I think this is kind of a blockish bet. The pot was 10,000, he's betting 3,000 here, right?
Exactly. He's trying to find out whether his kings are still good. Be interesting to see whether he induces a bluff from Phil.
I mean, part of the reason you make that $3,000 bet is to get a free showdown as well.
Exactly.
And it kind of looks like a blockish bet, and Phil Ivey might take the bait here. And of course, Chris Ferguson doing what he always does, just kind of hiding in the grass and waiting for the monsters. Well, Phil Ivey's going to think better of it, but I'm sure Chris Ferguson's not going anywhere. He's got the wheel.
Question is, how does he get some more money off Phil? I think that's going to be very difficult. There's 2 flush draws out there.
But between the 2 of these players, we have 2 world champions, 16 World Series of Poker bracelets, and Hellmuth knows he's dead, doesn't he?
I think that's going to be the end of this pot.
I'm really a tournament specialist, and I love tournaments more than cash games, but I think this cash game is going to be really special because we got some of the top players in the world. I think we got 8 of the top players in the world, and they're more lined up to come in if someone goes out. So here we're playing against the best players in the world, and that's what I live for.
Button is in front
Pass.
of Chris Ferguson. Ferguson, by the way, up over $160,000.
2,000. Pass.
Dwan hasn't been quite as lucky. Ferguson, the least active of all 8 players,
Pass.
having a phenomenal $1 million cash game.
Pass. Down pass.
The Rock, true to his name, not going to play that one. Top pair for Phil Ivey.
And not an awful lot for Tom Dwan.
He just puts a continuation bet in there, see if he can take it down.
2.
Well, that's an interesting card for Tom. Gives him an up and down straight.
But of course, it gives Ivey the flush draw. If a 6 of spades or the ace of spades were to come out, I'm not sure Dwan would see the flush.
Jack Queen, buddy. Why didn't you have the Jack Queen this hand? I just had the Kings this hand, Mike. What do you want? You put in 10,000 with Jack Queen against me. What do you want? I know you're steaming. That was a.
Well, I didn't figure that's fine. He makes a big call on the flop. He knows I got a big hand. You know, I look back and I make a bet. I mean, look for sure I have to have a big ace of clubs or something. I mean, I don't know. It was a bad.
They just beat my kings too the last time. You know that?
I'm mad at myself. They didn't beat me, I beat them.
If you raise pre-flop, I fold.
I know, Chris. What do you want me to do? Look, I played my way, you know, and my way's made me a lot of money for a lot of years.
I know it has.
And I mean, if you keep beating 2 kings with 2 random cards, then you'll do well against me. More often than not, though, you're going to flop a pair and get yourself in trouble.
I'm going to get myself in trouble with a pair of deuces. That's a big hand, 3-handed.
Well, you didn't have 9 deuce. You couldn't hit a 9.
Could have hit a 7. Could have hit a 7 deuce. That would have been okay.
You're more likely to make a straight, huh? Okay. All right. I know one thing. It didn't have to come a ace or a 6. If it comes a 6, you win nothing.
Queen deuce 7. Let's go queen deuce 7.
Oh, you can't beat me for much money. I'm in slow play mode. I didn't even raise the flop.
Deal me in. I'm playing great. Wonderful. Folding like $100,000 pots. I just got bluff for a $100,000 pot.
Oh, babe.
I can't believe I folded 2 kings to Ivey.
And Patrick Antonius has stretching his legs as well. Meanwhile, Tom Dwan doing a little bluff. And I'm pretty sure that's not going to get through. Phil's been calling all the way to catch this bluff on the river.
$27,800.
And it's a nice size bet there, $27,000. It's about 3/4 of the pot size there.
Yeah, about 3/4 of the pot.
Definitely could be a value bet, of course. Could be a bluff. I mean, could have even made 9-10. Of course, open-ended straight draw flop.
Cool.
He's got the nut low, is what he says. The worst hand possible in that spot. That's probably why he felt like he had to bet. He was never going to be able to win a showdown. The truth is, I don't really think there's much value in that bet. The only hand he's really going to get Phil to lay down, I think, in that spot is kind of a king-10, and that's about it. I think Phil's probably going to call a jack.
Perfect.
He's probably going to call a queen. Maybe a 3 he's going to put pass. That's about it.
Well, Tom Dwan, a great player in his own right. But you have to wonder, is he a little bit out of his league trying to pull off bluffs off players like Phil Ivey? And we get a leaderboard here. Tom Dwan down over $300,000. Patrick Antonius, he's down $250,000. Of course, Ivey is on the way up over 70,000 now, but David Benyamine, he is up nearly $200,000 and at the top of our leaderboard. We're at the FullTiltPoker.net $1 million cash game.
Pass.
Button is in front of Patrick Antonius. The players have returned. And the action is over to Chris Ferguson. He's not going to play this one. Over to the button, Patrick Antonius. He's not going to play this. Tremendously patient player, Antonius, isn't he?
Yeah, very, very patient, Patrick. We've got a live straddle on this one. 1,200 from David Benyamine and raised up by the internet sensation Tom Dwan, who's currently not having it his way. A raise with the ace-3 and a call from David Benyamine. Well, the ace has come.
Yeah, Dwan way ahead here. Benyamine's got backdoor clubs and the gut shot. No help there on the turn. And Dwan obviously wants to keep this pot somewhat small. He's got top pair, but no kicker. Very vulnerable hand, isn't it?
It certainly is. He probably doesn't want to feel like he wants to put an awful lot of chips in this pot. And he's going to wish he bet it now. A straight for David. It's only a $10,000 pot, so I can't imagine an awful lot's going to be lost in this pot.
Now, it's interesting here. Did he miss a bet on the turn? I mean, I know he's trying to pot control. I know he's scared of the check raise from Benyamine because he's such a creative player. He can check raise bluff. But did he miss that bet?
Well, yeah, it's not so much a case of missing a bet. He's missed a chance to protect his hand. If he's up against a queen or jack, his check on the flop may get him a caller on the turn.
So he just got unlucky, really. I mean, we basically a 4-outer. So many different things you have to factor when you're playing no limit hold'em. One thing is pot control, and Tom Dwan was doing it perfectly there until the king of clubs falls. It's a pot-sized bet. And although this pot might seem small in comparison to other pots, we're talking about $20,000.
Anyone who's ever played with David Benyamine knows he can bluff. Anyone who's ever watched David Benyamine knows he can bluff.
Well, he's shown a handful of bluffs. And if there's ever a bluff card out there, the king of clubs is the bluff card, isn't it?
It's true. You just got to work out whether it's a kind of a 50-50 chance whether David's bluffing or not. If it's higher than 50-50, he makes the call. If it's less than 50-50, he should make the pass.
And why is that? Is that because he's getting 2-1 on his money?
That's exactly right.
You can show bluff. I don't mind.
No, I don't have it. Which one you want? Choose one.
This one.
He turns over the 3.
Ace, king, queen, jack.
Maybe. Benyamine having fun with the 22-year-old. $2.6 million at the table. Action over to Patrick Antonius there. He's going to fold. He's been so patient. Kojak there for Andy Block. Now, Scandinavian players have a reputation for being so aggressive. Patrick Antonius, not so much.
No, not in this game. He's realised it's 8-handed. If you play 3-handed with Patrick, he can really step up his gears. He can by far be the most aggressive player at the table, but he can also be the tightest and the quietest player at the table. That's why he's such a quality player. But this hand developing into a bit of a pot. A button raise from Andy Block, trying to steal the 1200 live straddle of Tom Dwan, and a re-raise from Tom.
I mean, was it necessarily a steal? He had king-jack on the button,
no,
and unraised pot.
Exactly, he thinks at the time he's probably got the best hand. It might be a little different now he's facing a re-raise.
And you got to hand it to Tom Dwan. He keeps getting knocked down, but he keeps getting back up.
Yeah, absolutely relentless.
Yeah. Cool.
And Andy Block's going to make the call with the king-jack. I wasn't actually sure he would.
Pot nearly $31,000. Heads up to the flop.
2, 6, 6.
Well, that's a pretty good flop to bluff into, isn't it?
It certainly is. There's nothing there for Andy.
And unless Andy started with a pair, it's unlikely that flop helped him.
Exactly. $19,000, $20,000 bet. Find out where he is. Maybe even find out for cheaper.
So if you're a Dwan here, $19,000 bet, is that what you're saying?
That's the kind of size bet I'd expect.
Looks like 17 right there. Looks like 17-5.
Well, UB's having
No, 14.
day 1A and then...
What's the latest we could play in that thing? We could sign up.
17-2.
I don't know.
You got to find out from me. Because I'd rather play that than equal fee if I get knocked out.
It's just so beautiful down there.
Forget beautiful playing.
Pot nearly 50,000, and I just don't see a way that Andy Block can continue with this one.
Take a little bit of creative play from Andy.
I mean, he has position, but of course, Dwan's got the betting lead, which is more important in this case, isn't it?
It certainly is.
No, there's 2. I was told by Ty Stewart it's 27-28, so I play the 27. And then if I make it through the day, I rebook my flight for the 30th.
There's an EPT here after.
Block plays online as well. He's very familiar with durrrr. He knows he can be making a move here, but he's only got king-jack. And he's going to release it.
Thought better of making some sort of play on the kid.
Block there, loses a little bit of a pot there. And he has now dipped below the $100,000 mark, down $700 after winning an early pot. Hope you're enjoying the FullTiltPoker.net $1 Million Cash Game. I certainly am. Of course, Chris Ferguson wearing his trademark cowboy hat.
Live straddle on this one, 1,200 from Phil Ivey. Patrick Antonius, who's been very quiet so far, despite being stuck $250,000. He raises it up to 4,000.
Lesser players might press and steam if they're down $250,000. Not Antonius.
Not at all. Well, Phil Hellmuth with ace-king calls, and so does Phil Ivey very quickly. It's going to be these three to the flop.
5, 10, 8.
10 high board. That's good
Check.
for Patrick. Not much for anyone else.
Now, when Phil loses this hand, are we going to get more moaning out of the poker brat?
Nothing would surprise me from Phil Hellmuth.
Pot is $13,000.
10,000.
And Antonius is going to
Today a
bet.
Thursday? Confused. Is today a Thursday?
We know what day it is. Anybody here know that? I bet you there's not one person here knows what day it is.
I mean, come on.
I don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and guess. I think it's Thursday, but I don't have a clue.
I don't know.
No, it can't be. Well, yeah, it is Thursday.
Phil Hellmuth shows the ace-king, folds it. Phil Ivey folds as well, and Antonius takes down a pot.
I would say my best strength is a good feel for the game. Sometimes I can make a big call with the bottom pair. Sometimes I can lay down a set or two pairs. You just have to know everything what's going on the table.
I mean, Patrick Antonius is just an amazing player. He's basically come up from nowhere in the last couple years, and he's just taking down the cash game. He's beating the cash game. He's one of the best cash game players, and he's also beating the tournaments, and that's something that few people can really do.
Patrick's strengths are his fearlessness and his ability to read a lot of different situations and play a lot of hands to really confuse his opponents.
He doesn't seem to tilt, and he seems to be super aggressive.
And suddenly, when he's going to have the big hand, he's going to try to make you make a big mistake at that moment when it counts for really big money.
There's just no game where he's going to be giving away much money, and he's just one of the best poker players in the world.
Patrick Antonius is probably the second best poker player out there today.
You know, he's just an unbelievable player. He's definitely one of the best players playing right now.
They say he's really good. I'm not worried about it.
Mike the Mouth down $22,000, trying to figure out how do I get in the black.
You couldn't raise there with ace queen, I guess, or ace jack.
No, not when Patrick raises.
Pass.
Button in front of Tom Dwan.
Couldn't re-raise with two jacks.
No straddle this pot. Action over to the rock, and the rock is in there
High-low,
with
they
Jack
don't
10
need an ace,
offsuit.
they don't need a king, they don't need anything higher than 5, and they can re-raise you all day long.
I mean, I can't even. You stole my line, but I can't even see straight anymore.
You don't even need to have a wrap hand. Too high, too low, it's pretty good.
Just think you should be like $200,000-300,000 loser.
I should be loser.
Yeah, you should be loser.
In the
You
last
were like
round,
100 loser on full-blown tilt yesterday, and
full-blown tilt.
and
Really?
a miracle happened.
Mike, I tell you something. I've forgotten more than you'll ever know about Hold'em, and that's the truth.
I know.
And I'm not even kidding.
I know. But as Roland DeWolf would say, how many years ago was the last time you won a $10,000 main event? 20?
3, 7, 2.
You know, I mean, if you're going to attack me, you better find something that makes sense.
That was a funny. That is a funny story.
You attack the guy with 11 bracelets like he hasn't won a tournament lately or something.
Oh God!
Very clever,
Hear
Mike.
about his bracelets. He won
Very clever.
6 or 7 of them.
No, I mean,
against like 50 people.
just come on, just bring something real. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, come on.
Come on, man.
Bring something real, man. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna just like, you're just gonna make stuff up or what?
Phil, if you never win a WPT, nobody's going to give a shit about your bracelets. Or a EPT or a $10,000 tournament. When you have to beat real players, I mean, that's it. You're going to be judged whether you win any of them. Like you used to say to Mr. Ivey, you're judged by the
skins on the wall. That's right.
That's right. You used to say that to him.
That's
well,
what
you
I
got
said
8
to him.
final tables and a skin. You got like 2 final tables and no skins. So skin that. There you go, buddy.
Well, some really heated exchanges there from Mike Matusow and Phil Hellmuth. We know they're very good friends away from the table, but when there's this much money at stake on the bays, well, there's absolutely no love lost. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes' time. Welcome back to the heart of London, where things are really beginning to get serious here at the FullTiltPoker.net $1 Million Cash Game. We'll hand you straight back to your commentators, Gary Jones and David Tuckman.
You got to come with something original, son. I mean, you're really, I think you've lost your touch.
When we played 3-handed at the TOC, I schooled you like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, you schooled me all right.
Right?
You got your money in like 7 times.
Oh, yeah, I did. I got
Well, I sat there and waited, baby,
waited
and
you
waited.
stacked off with ace queen.
Risk-free for 5. I got my chips up to like $1 million, risk-free. Don't you remember? You got all your money with ace queen.
All right, let me take a look.
You're gonna violin that one out too, huh? Screaming one time about 5 times. One time! I remember it. It was pretty sick to me. One time, and then 10 minutes later you're in with ace queen against ace queen.
Hit the running
one
too hard,
time!
so I want that
he
turn.
did, David. He screamed one time like 5 times, and I just sat there saying, God, does he understand? You used to get there on your wits alone, son.
Yeah, Matusow at the best of it
lost
right
a
now. Block has a
I
gut
love
shot,
you anyway,
plus
but you might
backdoor
have lost a
diamonds.
step, Mikey.
And Antonius is way behind, but that doesn't stop him from betting.
Just a 5,000 bet into the 8,000 pot. Making a 13,000 there now. I expect a call from Mike.
Call.
As you can see, he's in very good shape right now. 85 plays 15. Queen on the turn, no change. Patrick has played pretty tight, and that queen's got to be a bit of a scare card for Mike Matusow.
Antonius asking for a count. Matusow has about 70 left, he says.
Can't imagine him calling about a 15,000 in this spot. If Patrick can just bring himself to do it.
Check.
Goes check, though. Here comes the river.
3.
3's definitely going to slow Patrick down. If Mike was on a flush draw, he's caught.
And of course,
Check.
Goes check again.
6.
Mike's going to be happy to take this one down with a pair of 6s.
Pairs are big for me.
Every pot a big pot for Mike Matusow right now.
David Benyamine with nearly 700,000, and of course Phil Ivey with $866,000 for him. Tom Dwan now down $285,000.
Pass. Call.
An okay hand there from David Benyamine, ace jack of spades. He's mixing it up as well. He's decided to flat call.
And the 5-3 suited for Dwan. That's right up his alley.
Exactly.
Call.
Little raise. Call from Phil Hellmuth with the pocket deuces. A small flop could be interesting. Something with deuce and a 4 on it. In fact, ace deuce 4 would be fantastic for the action.
Little fake fold there from Benyamine, but he's going to call this.
I've done that once.
8, 10, 10.
Now,
Well,
this is
that's
an interesting flop, yeah.
Not
Dwan,
quite the flop we asked for, but it's still plenty there for us.
of course, not much there for Hellmuth, but Dwan's got the flush draw. Benyamine with top pair and a gut shot. And these two, they just love to tangle it up. They should get a room.
Phil reluctantly passing his deuces. Getting a bit sick, he doesn't seem to be able to catch any cards.
And the way Phil Hellmuth is reacting there, you'd expect to flop a set, what, one every 2 times?
Yeah, though, yeah, he certainly thinks like he should be.
And of course, Benyamine's going to call that bet from Dwan. Pot is 25,000.
And that's a great card for David. Benyamine gives him the nut hand right now, the straight.
Yeah, he's got Broadway.
The ace, king,
Wait till Phil loses the pot. Show will start.
I'm just happy there's some cameras around so you guys actually ante up. That makes me. That makes me happy.
Listen, if you could just suck up a little bit and just drop down a little bit, you could play me. You could play me head up 500,000 08 every day for as many hours a day as you want.
Is that a guarantee?
Guarantee.
Mike, don't you ever shut up? I mean, when a man has a good line, you
gotta
say
move
good
myself
line.
up to that 2-4,000 game a little at a time. I figure I have enough to play that high after beating you out of 5-10. It'll probably take me about a month.
Now, easy for us, obviously, we can see the cards. But why is Benyamine checking that one?
Well, he's hoping that there isn't much that Tom can catch. His best chance to get a paid is for Tom to bluff it. What might be interesting is if Tom does decide to bluff it, whether David decides to just flat call or not.
What do you have to say? You want to argue with him about it or what?
I ante up anytime.
He must be thinking.
It's not my fault.
21,000.
And he bets 21,000 into a $25,000 pot. Pot is now $46,000, 21 to call. And we know Benyamine's definitely going to call, but we assume a raise is coming, right?
Well, I don't know. I actually think he might even flat call this.
And then check it again, hoping for another bluff.
Quite possibly. He probably thinks it's very, very safe. He can afford to give the free card, even though there's 2 flush draws out there.
When you're getting phone calls for people, they say, hey, you got that 5,000.
It looks like a scary board. But I guess if you're holding the nuts, it's not that scary.
Even if you're in action every day, it's still, that's broke.
And of course, we've got a big hand going on here. Mike the Mouth continuing
The bills come right out of your account.
to do what he does best.
And you play 500 point Chinese and you just pay right away. That's not broke.
Some people don't.
And of course, all of that is going through Benyamine's head here.
Oh, it looks like he's counting out a raise.
Pretty good spot, if you ask me.
Well, the interesting thing is that Benyamine, he would check raise bluff this as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Knowing there's a one-liner out there, of course, a one card to a straight. And he's shown a lot of bluffs as well.
67 total.
And he makes it 57,000, so it's 36,000 more.
I think it might have been 67, I'm not sure.
And it was 67, thank you. So it's 46,000 more to durrrr. And Benyamine, I'm so impressed with his creative play.
He's also managed to catch some cards, though. Let's not forget that. He's been very creative. He's done some really nice bluffs, but he's also managed to catch some cards, and that's what's happened in this case.
Pot is $113,000. 46,000 to call. Now this is interesting here. You get a call here. Wow, and the pot is nearly $160,000. durrrr needs a jack to chop this pot and a club to win it. To the river, $160,000. Oh, and it's the queen of spades.
It's going to be a little bit of a scary card for David. You're just trying to work out how much
95, 90.
100,000.
And obviously, Durrrr can't call that. It's a $100,000 bet from Benyamine. And nothing is going Tom Dwan's way.
No bluff. Can I get 100 more?
And he is going to buy in for 100,000 more. He is now down
Did you hear that?
$362,000.
Can I have 100 more?
$62,000.
Can I have 100 more?
And a flush was too.
And he asks for it like, can I have a coffee?
Well, I'm afraid we've got to leave it there for now, but with some of the highest rollers in poker here, the chips are sure to be flying again next time here on the FullTiltPoker.net $1 million cash game. We'll see you then, but from all of us, it's bye for now.